The ban list is finally in effect, no more waiting, it's time to pull out the all reliable. We aren't talking about magician's magic in this video though, alright? We're talking about good old fashioned navigation magicians. But if you want to see a magician's magic video, we have one on the channel already. Nothing's really changed with that version of the deck since that video was posted, so definitely check that one out. But now let's get into some real Dark Magician. The overall game plan of this deck is to take advantage of the archetype's back row to control the duel, preventing the opponent from overtaking you, and gradually building a strong enough defense to safely win the game without anything left to stop you. What's different about this version in comparison to Magician's Magic is that they can't summon Dark Magician on the opponent's turn from hand or grave, while this deck's main focus is being able to summon Dark Magician from hand or grave on the opponent's turn. In order to achieve that, we have Magician Navigation and Eternal Soul. Magician Navigation special summons your Dark Magician from the hand, as well as a level 7 or lower spellcaster from the deck. It is a normal trap, so it is a 1 usage per copy, but in the graveyard after the turn it was sent there, you can banish it while you control a Dark Magician to negate a back row. So after summoning your Dark Magician with this, in the long game, the navigation will keep being relevant to protect that Dark Magician from back row. Eternal Soul can special summon a Dark Magician from hand or grave once per turn, and since it's a trap, that also is going to happen on the opponent's turn. It also makes your Dark Magicians unaffected by card effects, so like navigation, it also has its own way of protecting the Dark Magicians that it summons. You could also set a Dark Magic attack or 1,000 Knives from the deck instead of summoning Dark Magician, but those cards are really bad, so don't try that.
But Undead, isn't destroying back row monsters a good thing?
In the case of Dark Magic attack, destroying all back row is certainly a good effect, but the fact that you have to have a Dark Magician on the field means that either the opponent will already have used their back row trying to prevent you from getting it out, and if they still have back row once you've gotten Dark Magician out, then removing their back row is going to be pretty useless most of the time, because they can just chain their back row in response as if you didn't even do anything. And if you had an Eternal Soul protecting your Dark Magician from that back row, you didn't even need to use the Dark Magic attack in the first place. Navigation can negate back row, Eternal Soul can protect Dark Magician from back row and all effects in general, as well as we have other more versatile ways of getting rid of the opponent's back row. Trust me, if you stop playing Dark Magic attack in Dark Magician, you aren't going to miss it. In the case of 1,000 Knives, it has the same downsides as Dark Magic attack, except that it only removes one card instead of multiple, so it's even less defensible. Eternal Soul does unfortunately have a bit of a downside though. With all that upside, if it is removed from the field, it will destroy all monsters you control. A pretty heavy downside, meaning that if the opponent has any way to remove it at all, it's lights out. It's very common for decks and Duel Links to run cards like Cosmic Cyclone and MST to remove Eternal Soul, so the way we want to play this deck is using Eternal Soul as sorta a last option, rather than the first thing we do. You see, if we use our navigation to get our Dark Magician popping in the early turns of the game, then we are gonna have a Magician's Navigation in the grave that can protect our Eternal Soul from back row removal. If they were to remove it with a monster effect though, or if we wanted to stop any of their other plays in general, we also have a card that can banish any card on the field as soon as the Dark Magician is summoned, including if we summon him on the opponent's turn. Dark Magical Circle triggers to target and banish any card on the opponent's field when a Dark Magician is summoned, but keep in mind that if you summon Dark Magician with Eternal Soul and Magician Navigation in the middle of a chain, the chain will need to finish resolving before the trigger happens, so be careful with the timing of when you summon your Dark Magicians if you're planning on using Circle to remove things. Generally, we try to use Circle at the optimal time to either prevent their plays or to prevent their plan from doing anything to harm us. You're going to need to study many decks in order to find out when is the best time to interrupt them. One size doesn't fit all, and if you use Circle at a certain point to stop the opponent and you feel like it wasn't impactful enough, rewatch that replay to see if you could have used it at a better time. Dark Magician has often been accused of being a brain dead deck. As long as you have the Circle, Dark Magician, and a trap to summon it on the opponent's turn, you win. But that has never really been the case. These are just things said by people annoyed at what happened to be one of the best decks at the time. Don't get caught in the web of being annoyed at things that are good. Often it becomes a spiral of blaming others for things when you could be looking at yourself to consider what you could do different to make things better for yourself. Dark Magician is fairly simple in terms of the plays it makes, but the small decisions are what wins games. One tiny mistake could utterly destroy you when playing this deck. A general rule for interruption that you can apply to any deck is that you should ask yourself whether this interruption would either prevent the opponent from doing something they need to win, or whether this interruption would protect you from the opponent stopping you. If you feel like you could have done better in a duel where you are playing Dark Magician, but you need help figuring out what you should do different, join the Team 6K Discord and tag me in the Dark Magician channel and I'll help you out. As you can see from my prismatics, this is one of the decks I pride myself on. So far, we know what the general game plan of the deck is. We want to summon Dark Magician on the opponent's turn with traps, have those traps protecting Dark Magician, and use Circle alongside that to interrupt the opponent. In order to do all of that though, we need our hand to contain 3 different things: the trap, the circle, and the Dark Magician itself. Since you can't guarantee to have all 3 in your hand at once, you're going to need some ways to search for these cards. Circle actually helps to play that role. It isn't just a way to interrupt the opponent, it also looks at the top 3 cards of your deck to add either a Dark Magician or a back row that mentions him from those 3 cards that you looked at into your hand. Then put the other 2 on top of the deck in any order. It isn't perfect consistency since it only looks at the top 3, but if you have other search cards you could use first, you could use this at the end since your deck will have less cards in it and there will be a higher chance for you to see what you need to see. The main searcher of the deck though is something that this ban list is finally allowing us to play fully: Magician's Rod. On normal summon it simply searches for any back row that mentions Dark Magician, so it can add your circle, your navigation, your Eternal Soul, or it could even add your Illusion Magic. Illusion Magic tributes a spellcaster, the Rod, in order to search for 2 Dark Magicians from deck and grave. Kinda sucks to have in our hand if we don't have Magician's Rod, but it is important for us to have some way to let Rod search for Dark Magician even if it is in a roundabout way, as hoping for Circle to hit Dark Magician might not be reliable enough. If you use a back row on the opponent's turn, you could also use Rod to tribute a spellcaster to add itself from grave back to hand. This could be great for getting more searches for your back row to give you a better long game. Before saying yes to the effect though, consider whether it is worth tributing that spellcaster. Most of the time, the spellcasters you have in the field are ones that you need to have on the field for other purposes. But situations will certainly come up where you can use the Rod, and in those cases it is very good. The last searcher we have is Apprentice Illusion Magician. It can special summon itself by discarding a card, and on summon it searches for a Dark Magician, so we won't have to rely on Illusion Magic to tribute Rod, because often we can just use this as our way to search Dark Magician. And it has more bonuses as well. It isn't once per turn, so if you had 2, you could discard a card to summon one of them and search Dark Magician, then discard that Dark Magician in order to summon the second one, and then that second one will search another Dark Magician. And now you have 2 level 6s on the field to potentially Exceed Summon or Link Summon with, and you have a Dark Magician in your hand and in your grave to be used potentially with a Navigation or Eternal Soul. Also, if you have 2 traps in your hand, or you have a way to get a second, then you could use the Apprentice to discard Navigation to search Dark Magician, so that as soon as the Dark Magician comes out on the opponent's turn, the Navigation will have already been in the grave since the turn before, so you'll immediately be able to negate things. Apprentice also has an effect on the field and in hand that if a Dark Spellcaster battles a monster, you contribute it during damage calculation to make that Spellcaster gain 2k attack, meaning that your Dark Magician or other copies of Apprentice are often going to be dangerous to attack into. That extra bit of safety makes this deck way stronger, and of course you can also use this to beat over huge monsters or attack in for game as long as you are battling a monster. In fact, all of the utility that Apprentice brings actually has us wanting to summon it during the opponent's turn using Navigation, so that we can not only search another Dark Magician to help our follow-up and thin the deck so that our draws are better, but also have a way to protect our Dark Magician from battle, since if they try to attack your Dark Magician, the Apprentice will make the Dark Magician have 4500 attack, and if they attack the Apprentice instead, then Dark Magician himself safe from a battle. Navigation actually does have some other uses though that you could use depending on the format. The fact that it can summon any other level 7 or lower Dark Spellcaster gives us a few things that we could play one copy of if we chose to, in order to gain an advantage over the duel in other ways. One nice option you could summon from the deck is Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer. While it's on the field, it prevents the opponent from banishing from either player's graves, meaning that they can't get rid of the Navigation in your grave, and they can't use their own cards that require them to banish from their grave. If you don't have Kaiku though, there is a budget alternative to it, Knights and Sorcerer. When it is special summoned, it can banish 2 cards from the opponent's grave, but keep in mind that this card will miss timing, so you won't be able to activate this effect if you summoned it with a Navigation that wasn't Chain Link 1. Way back in the day, people liked to summon Magician of Dark Illusion from the deck, but these days his effects are too slow and his utility is redundant when we have things like Eternal Soul and Apprentice. In his prime, Dark Magician didn't really need an extra deck, but these days it's pretty important even if you aren't going to go into it very much. Often you will find yourself in scenarios where your main monster zones are clogged up, so you can't activate Magician's Navigation, since you need to have at least 2 available main monster zones in order to use Navigation, since it summons 1 from hand and 1 from deck. You can technically use whatever you like to accomplish this, but if you want your Dark Magician deck to be fully optimized, here's what I believe your extra deck should contain. Number 11, Big Eye. Stealing an opponent's monster can be especially deadly depending on what the opponent's monster is. It might be something that will win you the game right away if you steal because of its own power, as well as the fact the opponent has 1 less monster for us to deal with. Much of the time though, Ebon Illusion Magician will be better in this particular deck as it attaches to summon a Dark Magician from hand or deck, which may trigger Circle to banish a card, but it also triggers when that Dark Magician attacks to banish another card, making it very easy to go for game, as Ebon can still attack after using its effect too, unlike Big Eye. But Big Eye still has its uses. You could technically play whatever rank 6 XCs you wanted in your extra deck if you need to clear up some space on your field while you control 2 apprentices, and that actually happens more often than you might think. A lot of people would instantly go towards Beatrice, and you could definitely do that to send a bonus copy of Navigation to the grave for more negates, but apart from that, any other interruptive card you put into the deck would just end up bricking you, so I don't think it's worth it. Me personally, I have Photon Strike Bouncer in here. It's a simple monster negate, and it can make an already scary field of Circle, Trap, and Dark Magician in hand even scarier. Dark Magician, being a normal monster, means that it can be used as link material to summon the Link 1 Imduct. That might be useful simply to get a Dark Magician engraved so that you could link summon again with Eternal Soul to trigger a Circle again, or for more extra deck plays. Puzzlemino, being a link 2, is a nice and simple way to clear your own main monster zones to let your navigation work. Why I would pick this one though, other than other link 2s, is that if a monster is summoned to the zone it points to, it can make that monster's level anywhere between 1 and 8. So if you use Navigation to summon Dark Magician and Apprentice, you could summon the Apprentice to the zone it points to make it a level 7 so you could go into a rank 7, or you could summon Dark Magician to that zone so that you could make it a rank 6 to allow 4xC's plays with those 2 monsters. And another nice benefit is that Puzzlemino is a spellcaster, so he can be tributed by Magician's Rod in order for Rod to add itself back to hand from the grave. Whenever this play is available to me, it's almost always the right move to make. It isn't going to happen all the time, but once you have your gameplay loop working effectively, there's a good chance you are going to be able to summon a Link 3. In many cases, you won't need to do it in order to simply win the game, but equally there will be situations where you can go into a Link 3 to make things easier for you or safer for you. So we have Decode Talker and Nightmare Unicorn in here. Unicorn, of course, to help you get rid of things that are in your way, and Decode Talker to further protect your Eternal Soul from targeted effects. And what's nasty about Decode Talker in a potential long game with Eternal Soul is you can tribute a Dark Magician that the Decode Talker points to protect Eternal Soul from a targeted effect, then chain Eternal Soul to bring Dark Magician right back to the zone Decode Talker points to. This deck doesn't really have a skill that it needs, so really you could play whatever skill you wanted as long as the skill didn't prevent anything that the deck does. So I play Destiny Draw. If everything's going well, then I won't be able to use it, but if everything's going well, then I don't really need it either. If things are going poorly, Destiny Draw into whatever I need can really secure the whole game for me. Here's what my deck looks like. As soon as the ban list took effect, I jumped onto Ranked and played a bunch and had a great time. I really love Dark Magicians, and I'm so happy that they are fully unhit and stronger than they have ever been before. I've got the Book of Moons in here partially because it is the most versatile backer in the game, and partly because it's prismatic, so it goes well alongside the rest of the prismatics in the deck. I already kind of explained the general game plan of the deck, and this deck doesn't really have any combos. It's just about making the right decisions at the right time, and I feel like these replays are going to be good at showing off how you might go about that in this deck. Alright, so I'm going first here. This hand, my goodness, this hand. I already have the traps, I already have the circle, all I need is a Dark Magician, and Rod can get that for me, so I'm going to use the circle. Maybe it will give me, you know, a Dark Magician, in which case the Rod could search something else. It doesn't. It gives me another navigation. That's okay. It's still a +1. Rod, though, is going to summon, get myself the Illusion Magic. Then I can use the Illusion Magic right off bat, tribute that Magician's Rod, get me a couple of Dark Magicians here. And here I'm just going to set 1 Eternal Soul and 1 Navigation. Now, it isn't that deep where you set your traps, but sometimes I like to think about it. If my opponent knows that I got a navigation either from Circle or from Rod, then the first card I set will be the other trap, right? And if I search Eternal Soul, then I set navigation first. But anyway, it's not that big of a deal. They're playing Destiny Heroes, and here's my thought process, bro. He's going to summon it, he's going to use his skill right away, which is going to put Polly in the field. I can't respond to skills, however I can respond to effects. So he's going to use Malicious, summon another Malicious from the deck. As soon as that happens, I have my toggle on. As soon as it summons, I'm going to flip up the Navigation, summon Dark Magician, and my plan here, of course the Illusion is going to search me another Dark Magician, but I'm trying to banish his Polymerization, because generally the deck doesn't play any other polys, right? They just play like Miracle Fusion, they play ways to get it back from grave, but they don't have any way to get it from the banish. So if I get rid of that, he can't fusion summon. He can link, which is nice. And now, you know, he can discard a card, destroy a circle. I think that he wanted to bait me into flipping up Eternal Soul. I don't care. So now he wants to book me. That's fine. I don't care. I'm still going to be fine. He attacks into me. Then at the end of everything, now I know he can't chain anything, I'm going to flip up Eternal Soul, summon a DM, and his stuff is already set this turn, so he can't flip it up this turn, and I have a navigation to negate it next turn, so nice for me. Since I have 2 Dark Magician, right, one of them can stay on the field to allow the navigation to continue to activate, then I can say yes to Rod to add itself back, so I can get myself another circle. Decider, of course, is going to get him back a Destiny Hero here. Good for him. I'm looking very solid here. So the Rod is going to search me a circle here. He's going to crack down me, trying to bait me into negating him. Maybe because his other back row is more powerful. I'm going to let it happen. You can take my Rod, bro. That's fine. The search still happens. So I'm going to get that circle, activate circle. Circle's going to get me another circle, of course. It always adds another circle. Eternal Soul finally gets back a DM. I can trigger the circle here. I'm getting rid of his back row. He activates Book of Moon in response. Might as well, right? I don't need to negate it though, because I'm unaffected because of Eternal Soul. And that's where he scoops. He scoops when he finds out that I'm unaffected by card effects. GG's. Alright, so I'm going to be doing somewhat of a double duty here because this Salamangreat player made quite a lot of misplays in their game. I am, of course, going to be, giving some tips from the Dark Magician side to help your decision making with Dark Magician, but there's also going to be some tips for decision making in Salamangreat, so it's going to be like a double whammy replay. So he summons the Foxy, nothing wrong here yet. Trick gets the foul out as well, might as well, and he can rip a circle off the top of the deck. Very cool. And the first mistake is here. Right here is when you want to activate that circle so you can get your Gazelle right away, so that as soon as you link summon, you can summon that Gazelle. But he link summons first. What's even worse, he link summons to a zone that something points to. Not that deep, but it's deep enough. So he searches that Sanctuary, and then he activates Circle. Now you activate Circle, huh? That's crazy. And what's kind of an issue about this is you actually want to be able to use your level 4 foul as a rank 4 material. You won't be able to do that if you're using it as link 2 material. You would have been able to use the Gazelle for link 2 material if you had summoned it, if you had searched it first with Circle, then summoned it before summoning when you summon that Balink. Since it wasn't in your hand when you summon that Balink, you can't do that anymore. So that's kind of where you're messing up here. Activates that Sanctuary, then uses Balinks to summon Balinks for no reason at all. Did not need to do that, bro. You could have just gone link 2, link 2. But anyway, that is going to trigger the Gazelle at least. But you would have also triggered the Gazelle if you went into the link 2. Now you can't reincarnation link summon the link 2 because you can only reincarnation link summon once per turn. And he sets a Falco, which gets him back the circle. You should usually send the Jack Jaguar so you can resummon it, and also you should summon the Sunlight Wolf to a zone that nothing points to so you can resummon the Jack Jaguar. Now he's not going to be able to make a rank 4, and if he had played better, he would have also had Sunlight Wolf to add back the circle anyway. He also would have been able to add Gazelle back to hand, and he would have been able to get Jack Jaguar on the field to make a rank 4. So he's like -3 here. Because of his misplays, but that's okay. I have 2 traps and an apprentice, so I discard the navigation to protect the Eternal Soul here. So I get to search the Dark Magician, then I'll activate that circle. I'm also using this first to see what kind of back row he has, because I want my circle more. Anyway, so the circle is going to get me a navigation. Must be nice. Anyway, I'm going to set these 2 traps here because they're going to be great for survivability as well as interruption. I'm going to attack into him for damage. He can protect himself, but it doesn't make a difference. On draw phase, I notice he has a Foxy Engrave. I don't want him to activate it to get rid of Circle. I know that he'll do it. So before it happens, on draw phase, I'm going to summon Dark Magician, use the Circle to get rid of his Sunlight Wolf, because I know he needs to have his 2 copies of Sunlight Wolf for his whole grind game. I don't know if he knows that, but I know that about Salamangreat. So I'm going to get rid of one of them, because I know that they generally play 2, including the 1 from the skill. So he's not going to be able to get any more advantage from his Sunlight Wolf. So yeah, he is going to add back Gazelle, so that's another misplay. You don't add back Gazelle on your own turn. Now you can't use it. Anyway, so his turn now. Foul is going to prevent me from using Eternal Soul. But if I did flip it up, then he would have been able to get rid of it with a Foxy. So I'm like, you know what? I'm okay with not activating it. That's fine. So Foxy is going to summon itself, destroy my circle. It's okay, I've already used it. It's no big deal. Falco is going to return the Foxy to hand. He could have returned the Foul to hand and then special summon the Foul. And then not had to use his normal summon. Anyway, so now he's going to go into Link 2 Sunlight Wolf. And now he's also going to normal summon Foxy. Not that big of a deal. Then he's going to Heat Leo, get rid of my other back row. I don't really care. Because if he reduces something with the Heat Leo, he is going to reincarnation Link summon Heat Leo here to reduce my apprentice. Cool. I'm still going to be able to protect it with the other apprentice, you know what I mean? Which I will do here. He's going to protect himself with his second copy of Balinx. No big deal. I'm in such a good position here. Wow, another book. Book doesn't work against Link monsters, by the way, but he's going to use Book of Moon here to prevent his Heat Leo from being destroyed. I'm like, I might as well negate it, but he scoops before it happens. Well, he time limit wins because he's taking too long. You know how Salamangreat players are. Alright, so I'm going against Sharks here. My hand is actually kind of awkward. 2 books, a Nav, and an Apprentice. So I'm not going to be able to circle, but I have an interruption, and I have the Nav to get my plays going. So it's all good. I have enough protection to keep me going, and the opponent's playing Sharks, so Book is good against Sharks generally. So I'm going to search that DM, set my back row. I of course search for my favorite Dark Magician art. I just really like this one. I wish I had 3 prismatics of it. I have 3, but not all of them are prismatic. I'm going to book his Buzzsaw Shark, which is a good play, but he's going to lance it. Fair play on him, bro. Good on you, bro. And he's going to be able to summon another shark from the deck, allow him to go into a rank 4 play here. Unfortunately, he's not going into good rank 4 plays, he's going into Shark rank 4 plays, but it is what it is. He's going into the Bahamut, which summons the Nightmare, I think it is, yes, the Nightmare Shark, which goes into full armored Black Ray Lancer, which can destroy back row, pretty cool, but I'm going to use Navigation to summon a Dark Magician and another Apprentice from the deck. So no matter what he's battling, it's not looking good, but he keeps battling anyway, so he is going to be because of the fact that, you know, he has 1 material 2 detached to protect himself from destruction, his Xyz is going to live, but he is going to take quite a lot of damage. And, you know, I must be nice to top deck an Eternal Soul. That said, I could have very easily top decked into a Rod, or another Nav, or a Circle to search one of these 2. You know what I mean? So there was a lot of top decks I could have had. So he's going to use Compulse. I'm going to negate that thing so I can still destroy him. And my Dark Magician is safe because if he attacks into it with a Bahamut, then my Apprentice can protect it. If he attacks into Apprentice, fine, Dark Magician is still here. And I, you know, got that Dark Magician in hand to summon with an Eternal Soul as well. So he's got another Buzzsaw Shark. Must be nice, bro. Anyway, it's not like it's unlikely. They also have cards that can search for Buzzsaw Shark. But anyway, he's going to use the skill, get his 2 things out. He's going to go into Crystal Zero, which can reduce the attack of my Dark Magician. So in response to him doing that, I will flip up the Eternal Soul and not summon anything. Just protect the Dark Magician from card effects, that's all. Then he's going to use the Crystal Zero, detach material to destroy all, to negate my stuff. That's fine. But then the Eternal Soul is going to summon the Dark Magician here, and now I have access to my rank 6 plays and he knows it, so he scoops it up. Some Dark Magician players are going to notice a couple things about my deck list that I don't think they're going to be very happy about. Firstly, I'm only playing 1 Eternal Soul. Eternal Soul's downside of destroying all your monsters if it leaves the field is something you really can't take lightly, especially with how common back row removal is in Duel Links. And we know that we are going to be able to search for Eternal Soul at some point using Rod. And once you are at the right state of the game where it is safe to search for Eternal Soul, then either the opponent's already used their back row removal, or you have a way to prevent the back row removal. So I never find myself needing the second copy. If you want to play 2, I got nothing against it necessarily, but I don't feel like it's mandatory, so I spend the deck slots elsewhere. I also am not playing any amount of Pot of Duality in here. For a lot of Dark Magician players, Duality is something that you should obviously play, and I think that those players would fail at pouring water out of a boot if the instructions were on the heel. The fact that it prevents you from special summoning that turn means that you can't use Apprentice, the only card that can directly search Dark Magician without any RNG and without any other help from other specific cards being in your hand. If you have the choice between something that guarantees you will have something and something that might give you something if you are lucky, you should always pick the guarantee. Duality is also a horrible top deck. Let's say you don't have an apprentice in hand, but you have a duality in your opening hand. That's the only time that duality will ever be good. If you top deck it, you can't special summon. And really in Dark Magician, the first turn is the only turn in which you aren't guaranteed to want to special summon. With the way Eternal Soul gives you a new Dark Magician every turn. Many people also play a trick up the sleeve, which guarantees that you will have a Dark Magician in your opening hand, but prevents you from special summoning effect monsters on your first turn. You'll have that guaranteed Dark Magician, but you won't be able to use Apprentice on the first turn. That might be fine to you if you only have one Apprentice in your deck, but for the purpose of the deck's grind game, you really gotta play 3 Apprentice. It isn't just a searcher, it's also a way to keep you going across multiple turns. The gradual advantage it gains you is something the deck really needs, as this is a control deck, and the card advantage engine of a control deck is really the most important part of a control deck. So you gotta play 3 Apprentice, and I don't want to have any cards in my hand that are completely unusable, especially on the first turn. The little things really make a huge difference, especially in control decks. But yeah guys, if you have any questions about the deck and how it operates, be sure to let us know in the comments and we can talk about it. If you like the video, then slap like now, subscribe if you haven't already, hit the bell to get notified every time we make a new video. Have yourselves a good one, and I've been Undead from Team 6K, signing out.
Hey, why they gotta hate on me? I done got me 250,000 views and they still saying they low key. They ain't wanna come work with the kid, but I'm flexing with Zay on beats. How they ask for a spot at the gym, but they leave all the weight on me. I don't ask them to wait on me. They would ask where they gon' be with a song if they wanted the weatherman. I ain't ask them to pay no fees. She was homeless and needed a spot. I ain't ask her to pay no lease. I ain't ask her to say no please. I ain't ask her to make no cheese. Scream fake but it ain't on me. Got clean so it ain't no streets. Why green if it ain't no keeps? Brought cream so it ain't no beef. My team say it ain't no chief. My demon they hang on me. They seemingly ain't no peace. I seen him, he ain't no beast. For real.